Hi everyone, I'm Wendy, and today I'm showing you 3 spaghetti squash casseroles with only 4 ingredients each. I wanted to show how with just a few ingredients you can make an easy and healthy meal. But throughout the video I'll give you some ideas if you want to add a few extra ingredients. And the base of each recipe is spaghetti squash, but if you're not a fan, I'll give you some swaps for that as well. So let's get right into it. For all of these recipes, the first thing we need to do is prep the spaghetti squash. I like to roast my squash, but you can also cook them in the Instant Pot. To roast them, you can either cut lengthwise or crosswise. I personally prefer to cut them lengthwise, but whichever option you choose, be very careful while cutting them. Once they're cut in half, then you'll scoop out the seeds. Most recipes for spaghetti squash will tell you to add oil and maybe salt and pepper before placing these on your pan. Feel free to add that if you like, but these are not needed. I simply flip the squash onto a parchment-lined baking sheet and bake it without anything on it. I like to roast at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and depending on the size of your squash, this will take about 40 minutes to an hour. Alternatively, you could steam the squash in an Instant Pot. To do this, you would place your trivet in the bottom of the Instant Pot, add about a cup of water, place the cut side of the squash down on the trivet, and cook it at high pressure for about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the size of the squash. Of course, whether or not this will work will depend on if the squash fits inside your Instant Pot. Regardless of the cooking method, once the squash is soft, allow it to cool until you can handle it without burning yourself. Then you can simply scrape the strands of squash out using a fork. If you cut the squash crosswise, you can see it makes long circular strands. Or if you cut it lengthwise, you'll see how it pulls away in slightly shorter strands. And now your squash is ready to eat as is, or you can save it for recipes like the 3 I'm showing you today. You can also prep spaghetti squash ahead of time and freeze it. Although, if you're using defrosted spaghetti squash, much of the water will come out of the squash. So if using frozen, I do recommend squeezing the water out before using it in these recipes. Now let's jump into the first casserole. This one is Italian themed, and the 4 main ingredients are spaghetti squash, white beans, salt-free tomato sauce, and Italian seasoning. As I mentioned, I'll give a few suggestions for extra ingredients if you want to bump up the flavor. Each recipe starts by adding a layer of spaghetti squash to the bottom of an oven-safe dish. I'm using an 8 by 12 inch glass casserole dish and about 3 cups of spaghetti squash. Feel free to use a larger casserole dish and double the ingredients if you're cooking for a crowd. You can leave this spaghetti squash plain or season it however you like. If you use salt and pepper, go ahead and sprinkle a little of that on there now. I like to keep my recipes salt-free, so instead I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of granulated onion, some granulated garlic, and a little bit of black pepper. Then for this first recipe, I'm adding 1 can of drained and rinsed white beans. You could use cannellini or Great Northern beans. Then to a small mixing bowl, I'm adding 1 can of salt-free tomato sauce and some Italian seasoning. You can stop right there for the most basic, quick, and easy 4-ingredient casserole. But if you want to take it up a notch, you can add a few extras such as dried onion flakes, granulated garlic, and a few red pepper flakes. If you wanted to, you could even add some other veggies in here. Frozen spinach or kale would be a great option to add. Once you've added whatever seasonings and veggies you want, whisk it together and pour the tomato sauce all over the top of the casserole and spread it evenly. Again, you can stop here, or you could sprinkle on your favorite vegan Parmesan. I simply blend up a mixture of different nuts or seeds with a little bit of nutritional yeast to make a really simple vegan parm. Then the casserole will go into a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes. It just needs to cook long enough to heat everything through, and then it's ready to serve. I recommend serving this along with a big salad, and if you wanted to make it a little more substantial, feel free to add some whole grain noodles along with the spaghetti squash. Or if you didn't want to use spaghetti squash at all, you could replace it completely with pasta. Moving right along, let's make a Mexican-themed casserole. For this one, the main ingredients are spaghetti squash, salsa, black beans, and cheesy sauce. Again, start by spreading out the squash and season however you like. Then I'm spreading about a cup of salsa over the top. Next is a can of beans. My favorite for this one is black beans, but pinto would be great as well. I've even made this one with black-eyed peas, which was also really delicious. Finally, I'm topping this with about a cup of my vegan cheesy sauce. Yes, technically this is made up of multiple different ingredients, but I always keep batches of cheesy sauce on hand, so I consider it to be one ingredient. This is a great way to stay on track with healthy eating, always keeping some of your favorite sauces and dressings ready to go in the fridge or freezer. So feel free to use any kind of cheesy sauce that you love and keep on hand already. After I spread this out, it's ready to bake. Or, once again, if you wanted to add a little more, you could add some black olives to the top. As before, this one bakes for about 30 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. This casserole also goes great with a little bit of homemade guacamole. And like with the last one, if you wanted to make it a little more filling, you could add a whole grain, like brown rice. Or again, completely swap the squash for rice if you prefer. Last but not least is a curry casserole. Our 4 main ingredients are spaghetti squash, chickpeas, crushed tomatoes, and curry powder. Again, we start with the spaghetti squash and optional seasonings as you like. Then for this one, I'm using a 15-ounce can of crushed tomatoes along with a couple teaspoons of curry powder. There are many different kinds of curry powder to choose from, so make sure it's one that you love. I'll mix that well to distribute the spices, and then this time I'm spreading a can of chickpeas that I've drained and rinsed over the top of the squash. I'll spread the tomato curry mix on top of that. And again, if you wanted to add a few more ingredients, this would be another one that would be great to add a little spinach or kale or any other veggies you like. Some fresh ginger grated into the tomato would be fantastic as well. Again, this bakes for about 30 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and at the end, I like to sprinkle some fresh herbs on top just before serving. I'm using parsley, but you could also use cilantro. As before, this one would be great served with brown rice or another whole grain. Let me know in the comments if you're a fan of spaghetti squash, and even if you're not, I hope this video gave you some ideas on how to take just a few ingredients to make various different meals. I'd also love to hear what flavor combinations you come up with in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing, and I hope to see you next time.